Hi guys, Alice Taylor down at Lytham Golf Academy, and today we're going to do a little test, kind of head to head so to speak, between two of the really popular irons that are coming out on custom fit, particularly just lately for me, and I wanted to put them side by side, let you guys see how they perform against each other, and then maybe talk through kind of the benefits of one or over the other and which type of golfer they might suit. So the two clubs we're going to test are going to be the Ping G400 against the Ping G700. So the 400 is just cavity back, very forgiving, kind of there's a little bit of dampening material in the back to improve the sound, but nice strong lofts, lots of weight down in the bottom, but ultimately a very forgiving club. And the G700 is a hollow headed club, so in theory going to be a little bit more forgiving, centre of gravity potentially a little bit lower, so G700 may hit the ball a little higher and maybe on those miss hits give slightly more consistent distance. But I'm going to hit 5 real balls with each club, GC2. I've got the pin set at just under 180 yards, so I would expect to be carrying this G400 just over 170 and about the same with G700. But let's hit the 5 shots, let's look at ball flight, give you a look at performance numbers from the clubs, and I'll give you some feedback on kind of looks and feel as we go. So I'm going to go G400 first of all, just simply because this is the one that's been out the longest. So 180. So good strike. Just not quite turning back. And that one's certainly getting out there the kind of distance I would expect. So a good shot. And a good start. So didn't feel like my best swing, but still nicely on the green. That one maybe just felt a tiny bit heavy, but still very good and not really losing much on distance there for the quality of the strike not being quite as good. But 2 out of 2 greens from that kind of distance, always nice. Now my only negative is, and I think this will just come down to looks for a lot of guys, is I think G400 is quite a thick top line, is quite a big head, and as good as the material in the back is for making it sound better, for me it still feels and sounds a little bit hard. Some of you guys might like that kind of feel off the irons, just maybe not for me personally. Now that's definitely a tiny bit out the toe. Shaping back nicely. And again, pretty good, only losing maybe a couple of yards. 166, like I said, probably expecting about 172 as my normal carry on a well struck one. But last couple with G400. Just hanging out to the right. So I'd say more me than the club there. And again, distance wise, just maybe a couple of yards back of what I would expect. But one final one with G400. Just a tiny bit low on the face. Shape wise, really good. And I take that, great result. So I mean, for me, G400, and the reason it's so popular, get really good distance out of them, very forgiving club head. I think the only negative for me, looks wise won't appeal to everybody, and feel wise just that a little bit clicky off the face. So let's switch over from G400 to G700, see how that performs. Right guys, so I forgot to say before, these are both set up perfectly for me, so we're 1/2 inch longer, stiff shaft, green lie angle for both heads. So for me, when you put G700 down, it still looks very thick, and for me again, maybe the head looks a little even bigger, but strangely it doesn't look quite as offset, even though I know they're very similar in how they're offset. Certainly big, chunky, Very interested though, obviously performance wise. In theory this should be even more forgiving than G400 though. So 5 shots, let's see how many greens we hit, and let's see what the shots are like. Definitely turning over a little bit more than I would have liked. That misses the green, but carried a bit further. Certainly with the club face being a little closed, that would make up for that. So shot 2. There's even further left. And I think where both of these irons are very good is the fact that they are both offset. Anyone who tends to kind of just hit that little left to right shape, the design of the head will help with this. Certainly for me, because I tend to shape it right to left, not always ideal. Certainly for me, G700 feels quicker off the face, and I prefer the kind of sound and feel of G700, even if I'm missing more greens with this one. So last couple. So a little bit low off the face. And again, possibly just setting these off a bit too straight to be fair. And let's go one last one. Same a little further right. That one, then as you would, not shaping back quite as much. Okay, so certainly for me on accuracy, G400 won. But anyone who watches my videos, accuracy, yes, is a little bit dependent on strike, is very much more down to user error. So I've definitely got the club face a bit more closed with G700. But let's look at numbers and let's look at some of the important things. That ball striking was fairly consistent club to club, as I'd expect. So let's look at things like ball speed, distance, backspin, and see out the two clubs, in my opinion, perform the best. Okay, so kind of rather randomly, and there's no particular reason for this, but I've actually swung G700 very slightly quicker. Ball speed though, there's a big jump, kind of 119 to 125, so a big jump in that. G700 actually launching a little lower. I would put that down to me getting the club face a little bit more closed, therefore a bit less loft. But interestingly, the backspin is actually higher on G700. So that's good for me. It's a little lower than I would like to see, but with modern traditional stuff, about what you'd expect. Average height, the same. Now interesting, I thought maybe G700 would hit the ball a little bit higher. And certainly if you look at consistency, there was more variation in the carry distances with G400 than there was with G700. Now for me, that's phenomenally consistent and it's almost a club longer. Right guys, so we've looked at numbers, and even though G400 hit more greens, I personally would say the overall performance was better out of G700. It kind of launched the ball more around the loft I would expect. It kind of spun the ball higher, which was good. Not too high, but there was a bit more backspin, so that ability to stop the ball on the green. There was a more consistent ball speed and therefore more consistent distance on the shots. So you would expect a hollow-headed club to be more forgiving than just a cavity club. So for me, the design there with ping, really, really good. Interestingly, they both hit the ball the same height. I did think maybe G700 would go a little higher. So I think if you're the kind of guy who is looking for a bit more height out of his shots, I think either of these in ping offerings are very good. I think if you're looking for ultimate forgiveness, I think you're going to lean towards the G700, but I still expect G400, maybe a little bit more on price point because it does cost a reasonable amount less. And I think in the UK we're looking at about £40 an iron less for G400 than G700. So that's going to sway. If it's that close for a lot of guys, I think a lot of guys will still go G400. But ultimately, performance-wise, G700 I think gives a more consistent performance. So guys, hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, like and share it. Comment below. Let me know if you've tested these two, and if so, which one you went for. Subscribe to my channel if you don't already. hopefully catch up with some of you guys down here in the future. Stay in contact.